and welcome to Trends with LJE, your weekly dive into the stories shaping Nigeria's headlines and the lives behind the news. I am Maimuna Zubair, and with me today are three voices offering sharp analysis and grounded insight. Academic and media practitioner Dr. Uchehara Ikedichukwu Chris, development strategist and governance advisor Mr. Shadrach Oka, and joining us virtually from the LJE Asaba office, social commentator Ms. Mitchell Iwuno. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you both. And Mitchell, how are you doing over there? How's Asaba today?
Asaba is cool. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Amazing. All right, let's get into our first story, one that pulls us into the heart of Benue State's crisis. Amid ongoing attacks in Benue State, Governor Hyacinth Alia visited IDP camps in Gwer West this week, where he called on the federal government for absolute support to end the ceaseless attacks by suspected armed herders and bandits. Notably, he avoided advocating for a state of emergency, a move some believe might be politically or economically disruptive. In a show of empathy, former Governor Samuel Ortom cancelled his 64th birthday celebration, standing in solidarity with displaced and grieving citizens. Yet questions linger. What has changed in Benue's security architecture? Why does peace remain elusive? Dr. Chris, from a policy standpoint, what's your assessment of the governor's remarks the day before yesterday, where he stayed away from talking about state of emergency? He actually said, we don't need a state of emergency, we need federal government support. Thoughts on that?
Yes, in fact, if I am to comment on this issue, I'll start by saying that the Benue people, they have suffered enough and they deserve different treatment altogether when it comes to the killing and the maiming of the people of the Benue. So coming to what the governor said, you can see that he truly needs help. Absolutely. And he has, for some time now, since he has been in government, he has managed the situation and things are not getting better. So, and that's the reason he has to beckon and call the federal government to come to the edge of the Benue people. And that is what is deserved of a good leader, seeking help where is expected of him.
Absolutely.
So, and that he has just done. It is not left for the federal government, who has been called into this issue, who it is within their responsibility to come in and use the federal might to help the Benue people. So in this regards, the government of the day, we're calling Mr. President and other agencies of the government in the security space to come and assist the Benue people so that development can strive, so that people can go about their various businesses and farm activities.
Absolutely. Mr. Shadrach, as a governance advisor, we've talked about this Benue issue before, but I would like to hear your thoughts specifically on what you think a realistic roadmap to peace would look like in Benue State.
Well, the Benue, in the first place, share, interstate boundaries with over 5 states and also international boundaries with Cameroon. So if the governor is calling for aid, especially from the federal government, it is not misplaced, but it must be strategic.
Absolutely.
Aid in what regard, in what area? This is not novel. The attacks in Benue, the killing is not novel, something which has been constantly and repeatedly done. So we have the current SDF having the governor for 8 years. He had experienced all of that. Governor Ortom, that cancelled his birthday, had been governor for 8 years. He experienced all of this. So I believe stakeholders of Benue should come together in all sincerity of purpose. There is an agreement with the Meitiala, who, as one of the key stakeholders in this crisis, and they told them certain agreements that they have had with the traditional rulers of Benue State. Absolutely. And some of those things were breached. And that is one of the reasons why you have certain forms of attacks, clashes in the Benue.
Right.
But I cannot situate all of those attacks to be that of the Fulani herdsmen. It appears some are terrorists in nature. So the intelligence sharing now the expert of security should be able to come in and identify the nature of the attacks, domestic or foreign. So when they situate these issues, we'll be able to, through intelligence, be able to tell what kind of help should the federal, or how the federal government should actually come in. It is not just blanket and say we need federal government help. He should not be calling for help.
Right.
The Benue problem is a Nigerian problem.
Absolutely.
It's a government problem. So for me, it's somehow the governor calling for aid from the federal government. Government should step in and strategically locate what kind of aid or help they should be offering the people of the Benue.
Very much true. Mitchell, I'll be coming to you on this, specifically on the topic of not asking for, the president to declare a state of emergency. Do you think that this rejection of a state of emergency is short-sighted, as we assume that when that is declared, usually, at least in Nigeria, we find that there are active steps taken to ensure peace, even if it is just temporary in those regions. With the governor rejecting this and stating for support in a wider view, do you think that this is a bit short-sighted on the part of the governor of Benue State?
Yes, it is short-sighted. In fact, I don't think the federal government should wait for Benue governor to call for help, to ask for help before they step in. I personally think that Benue State should be declared a state of emergency, because it's very alarming, it's very painful to see what is going on currently in Benue State. And the fact that we do not have all the information, all the sources of exactly where the attack is coming from. Is it internal? Is it external? That is the main issue. I feel the federal government ought to have even stepped in even before the Benue State governor asking for help. They ought to have stepped in and called for a state of emergency and employ securities to do the right thing.
Yeah, declaring martial law, for instance, because this is a big issue that has continued in Benue State. Thank you so much, Mitchell. Moving swiftly along from cancelled birthday parties to political partying, as Delta politics makes the headlines. Governor Sheriff Oborewori and former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa are reportedly pitching their tents with the APC. This comes on the heels of growing murmurs within the PDP about marginalization and dissatisfaction with national leadership. For the APC, this is a catch. For the PDP, it feels like a slow hemorrhage. Reacting to the spate of defections, particularly in Delta State, PDP chieftain Dele Momodu called it a survival tactic, while PDP's acting chairman, Ambassador Damagum, openly lamented the perceived marginalization of Delta leaders within the party. The defections raise uncomfortable questions. Is political ideology dead in Nigeria, or was it ever alive? And how much of this is self-preservation versus genuine political realignment? Shadrach.
Thank you very much. The developments in Delta State, for some of us, it's nothing new. The founders of People's Democratic Party, from the inception, where you have AD, ALPK, you will see a clear ideological difference between those parties. I think it is the people who came into the party that came with a lot of personal baggage, character defects. So I always say political party have no ideologies, but the people who came in.
I don't know if I agree.
I will tell you that because clearly in the 1998, for instance, you know the difference between ABES, ALPP, and PDP, what they stand for, is very clear.
Right.
It's very, very clear. So, but over time, people jumping here and there. When you bring in your character, you have lack of character. You don't have, this pinpoint philosophy that guides your life. Absolutely. So you will now not use your personal defects of character to discredit the political party that was established based on certain ideologies that have been identifiable and very clear. On the issue of the defection, for some of us political watchers, it's nothing new. From 1998
to 2011, 2003, you've seen people defecting like that. What I think will happen, for now, it is the APC that is gaining. You have people also who have to jump ship from the APC to the PDP and other political parties. But the difference between the two is that the people will have to decide. But unfortunately for Nigeria, we have very weak institutions. So whether the people are going to vote for the APC or the PDP or not, it is the institutions who are supposed to be a neutral umpire that will now constitute the bigger clock in the wheel of progress for the people. So it's very sad, very unfortunate, but I don't take this thing very seriously. When people jump, when it is time for the real politics, you will see some of them jumping back to the PDP and other political parties. So I want just to call on politicians for other political parties to strengthen their ideology and stop jumping. It's a shame to have a vice presidential candidate of a political party in less than 2 years jumping ship. It's just a shame.
Absolutely. Dr. Chris, speaking about political ideologies and even the kind of incendiary remarks made by PDP chieftains, specifically PDP's Deputy National Secretary, who said that it is a decision informed by, quote, greed, avarice, and selfishness. And also, Dele Momodu said that all of these people who have defected were coerced into defecting, and they didn't do it with their own free will. In Osun State, I think a lawmaker as well has also made the move. We spoke about the former deputy governor of, I think, Abia State that made such defective moves as well. It seems like there's a heavy spate of jumping ship. I would like to hear your thoughts specifically to the idea of ideology, which Shadrach has already spoken a bit about, and the remarks by chieftains expressing their disappointment on the moves.
Yes, coming to Dele Momodu's comments that they are coerced. You know, before, Dele Momodu is not a baby in politics. And for him to have come out to make such statement, I can agree with him by saying that for them to defect, something prompted their defection.
Right.
It's either if you don't defect, you are going to lose the next election. And that is where that word coerce comes in. There is feelers that if you don't defect, the power that be, the government of the day, who has every power within its reach, will work against your re-election.
Absolutely.
And by that reason, when you, just like one of the APC stalwarts said, join APC and your sins are forgiven. So if you are not in APC, your sin will be used against you. So having had this, people are jumping into parties. Then on the area of, what was your last, the ideology,
right?
Yes. When my colleague was talking here, I think I beg to disagree in that area that there is no ideology.
Agreed.
Because if PDP to say have ideology and somebody jumps out from PDP to APC, tomorrow you will want to come back to PDP. You as a PDP, as a party, you don't need to take him again because he does not have your ideology. And if he has ideology, the ideology does not conform with what you have as a party. So you don't take him again. So all these things, borders and centers around personal interest and not the people's interest.
Very true. Moving swiftly along to Niger State, Governor Umar Bago directed security agencies to arrest youths with unconventional hairstyles, including dreadlocks and afros, citing their alleged association with criminal activities. Public backlash was swift, forcing the governor's team to clarify that the directive wasn't about hairstyles per se, but rather targeting actual criminals. Still, the language, timing, and implication have stirred deep unease, particularly among young Nigerians who see this as profiling dressed in policy. I'm going to start with you, Mitchell. I would like to hear your thoughts on this in general. What are the dangers of linking appearances with criminality? We've seen this happen during the End SARS movement, and it seems like it's beginning to crop its ugly head again. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Profiling has been a huge issue especially for young youths in Nigeria. And that's why you saw during NSAS, we came out in our numbers, youth came out in their numbers to say enough is enough of profiling. Because you're putting on dreadlocks, because you're putting on rugged jean, does not make you a bad person. It does not give you the right to treat me like a criminal. So profiling is it's very bad to see that a leader, a governor of a state, will come out and say that and encourage the security people to profile Nigerian youth. It's very alarming, and I am very disappointed that that is even a conversation in 2024. I'm very disappointed.
Absolutely. Shadrach, I'd like to hear what you think about this statement and the reversal of the statement barely 24 or 48 hours
Yes,
after.
for me, it's more, I would want to dwell more on the reversal of the statement,
Right.
because making mistakes is just human. I believe it was a slip of tongue. For instance, I have been following the comrade governor, the farmer governor, as he likes himself
Like
to
to
be
say,
called,
yeah.
and he has been doing a whole lot in the Niger State. So I had the privileged information before he even went on air to make that initial statement that he was actually referring to a cult group, but the style in which he communicated became what. So information management, I believe the public backlash, but you can see he took back his word. If you situate that what the Senate president said previous months ago, when people were lamenting hunger and he said they will be partying, go and be protesting, let us be partying. Which one is more harmful?
Yeah.
If we must look at that, this is a governor who has reversed himself and has put into context what he initially meant.
Absolutely.
So I don't want people to dwell on what he said yesterday when he had corrected himself and said, this is what I meant to say. Put that side by side what our Senate president said when people were lamenting and said, you can go protest, we will go and be feeding ourselves. If Nigerian youths understand themselves and their place in governance, he should not be the Senate president today. People have said worse things than what this guy have just said. Once again, I salute the comrade governor. He's a youthful governor. He has taken back his word, not minding what the people will say, the backlash.
Absolutely.
So congratulations to the Mr. Governor. And of course, profiling is wrong. He has admitted that, and he had welcomed those with dreadlock investors and good people to come into Niger State and do it. He's doing very well in the Niger.
Interesting. Still ahead, Nigeria's skies go silent as aviation workers strike, and Lagos unveils sobering numbers in the fight against HIV. We'll be right back.
Ready for change? Join LJE Nigeria, an innovative organization driven by change, growth, and economic advancement. For membership details and registration, visit our website ljenigeria.org or follow us on all social media platforms.
Welcome back to Trends with LJE. If you're just joining us, we have been unpacking the week's major headlines with a stellar panel, and we just had a special guest join us. President of LJE, Barrister Samuel Meme, all the way from our LJE offices in Asaba. Good morning, Barrister. How are you today?
Very fine. Good morning, Mona. Good morning, viewers. Thank you.
Absolutely great to have you here on the show. We've been talking about so many things, and we went on a break and we're back. And now we're going to the air and ground disruption that hit Nigeria this week, where the NIMET strike grounds flights and weather staff demanded their due. This week, domestic aviation was thrown into disarray as members of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, embarked on an indefinite strike. Their grievances, arrears of minimum wage, unpaid promotion benefits, and being left out of consequential salary adjustments. With NIMET workers off duty, airlines like Air Peace had no choice but to suspend operations, putting thousands of travelers in limbo and raising safety concerns. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Chris, on your thoughts on this, because this was a developing situation. They said that the minimum wage has not been effected, and that because of that, they were going to go on strike. As at yesterday, they were supposed to get into talks with the federal government. We don't know what the outcome of that is yet, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yes. You see, I don't know why our government, our leaders, agencies of government will wait until when it is in a stiff condition that people cannot manage the situation or take it again from them, which calls for strike, and that is when they will react and start calling for dialogue, calling for discussion. When people's life is at stake, I don't know if we can think and ask ourselves what Nigerians and Nigeria lost on that day and the days
It's
of this one.
Absolutely.
People lost lives, people lost business opportunities, people lost so many things. And come to think of it, we have an agency saddled with the responsibility of taking care of the welfare of the people.
Airline workers.
And they waited until it was the time they are now embarked on strike. This is too poor and very appalling to say that, okay, information reaching us is that the minister, he was there. He saw these things. Now he has swift into action by calling for dialogue, for discussions. When things has gone bad. In fact, I don't know, that calls for us to think about the recruitment structure and process by which our leaders go into power or leadership positions. People who are incompetent, people who are not professional in what they do. When you see them in positions of leadership, and this is what you see. So, but thank God, they are dialoguing, they are discussing. Let's see what will be the outcome of their discussion.
Absolutely. Barrister, I'd like to hear your thoughts on potentially legal avenues for resolving labor disputes in sectors that are tied to, critical national security and public safety, without it always devolving into strike. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this developing issue.
Well, I think I saw it in the news this morning that NIMET has called off the strike. Of course, this actually bring us back to the issues of leadership country. You recall that weekend, the leadership of this country busy moving from one state to the other, galvanizing defection of people from other political parties to join their fold, and while leaving critical segments of the economy down. And this borders on the issues of priority as well, just like Mike said. So we will continue to call on this leadership of this country to do the right thing, the political leadership as we have them, not essentially leader with the intention to create a more conducive environment for the people. And we're happy now that they're called off the strike. We hope that to resolve the major issue that are affected the initial reason why this strike was initiated in the first place. Of course, we watched what happened when the chairman of the APs, the phone call that they made across to one of the team members there, instructing that all AP strikes should automatically cancelled, irrespective of those who may have urgency to travel.
To
And
travel.
that in this country, traveling by the road is no longer feasible and is no longer enjoyable.
It's not
If you
safe.
go to the
The
airport
roads are
now, you
bad.
see a large number of people queuing on the trying to fly. The road is no longer
Conducive.
applicable. You fly to the road, your life is at risk. So Nigerian government should begin to look into the issues that affect the common man and see how they can bring up this issue and resolve this issue amicably for Nigerians to begin to see life as something very interesting for them to engage. But again, we cannot achieve this thing by mere begging them. Nigerians must begin to look to see how we can chase these people out of power and bring in the right people to lead us and govern this in the right way.
Very well said. Moving swiftly along to our final story of the day. In Lagos State, over 135,000 people are currently living with HIV. That is the latest discourse from the state's Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi. While medical response has improved, especially with testing and access to ARVs, the deeper challenge remains stigma. In a progressive move, over 100 religious leaders have been enlisted as HIV and AIDS ambassadors to promote awareness and reduce discrimination in places of worship and local communities. Shadrach, I'm going to come to you as our resident development strategist. When we talk about potential epidemics like this, it's funny that we're still having such a large number in a single state of patients or people living with HIV despite the advancements in treatments, testing, and all that. Maybe I want to ask, what is the biggest barrier to, effective testing, treatment uptake, and even just finding a way to galvanize how people live with this disease, especially in underserved areas?
I think for me, the biggest challenge is inconsistency with the way governments prioritize health issues in the country. Kudos to Lagos State government, even though the number is quite very alarming for a state like government, like Lagos, to churn out. But it's a first step to even discover, which means they are investing in that information gathering and all that. I can bet you if other states who follow suit, you'll be more surprised that we will even have numbers that higher than what you have in Lagos. But beyond that, the Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin, is an expert, and he's done so much when we had the era of Ebola and the era of COVID and all of that. So Lagos should have the infrastructure to be able to, keep up with that. But beyond that, as a country itself, we must invest in research. We must invest in information gathering, sensitization and enlightenment program, following the Lagos example. It should be a national policy driven by Ministry of Health to ensure that sensitization goes up very, very high in the rural areas so that we'll be able to halt the spread. Because for me, I think it's the resurgence of the HIV issue. If care is not taken, it will overwhelm us, and then we always wait until that time, like Dr. Chris said, when it is overwhelming before we now start doing something. It shouldn't be.
Absolutely. Dr. Chris, what is the role of community and media in transforming public attitudes towards HIV in Nigeria? When we talk about discrimination and stuff, for the state government to be embarking on making religious leaders as ambassadors. What are your thoughts on this in general?
The choice of the government making religious leaders ambassadors, well, if I'm to say, is not out of place. But we should embark more, we should deploy the use of the media. Now that we have the prevalent existence of social media, virtually is everywhere with us. Even people that doesn't, the government already should use that avenue, then embark on more conventional media advocacy and media campaigns that will tell people that this is not the end of their life. And we should also raise up our skill in the area of funding, make it increase our budget in the area of funding, campaign, and in the in our health sector, so that everything that has to do with this, should I call it scourge, will be nipped to the bud. And now, looking at it, the USAID, they have withdrawn their sponsorship. So the government of the day, federal government, state government, should fill the gap so that we can nip this scourge to the bud.
Absolutely. Barrister, from a legal standpoint, what protections do Nigerians living with HIV have under our laws, and are they being enforced?
Well, before we talk about the legal implication, I think one of the major things is in the area of victimization, nobody should be victimized for whatever ailment in the case of HIV. And but we'll have to look at it from the societal aspect. And I think for those, if we have such number, 35,000 statistically in Lagos State alone, that is quite 135,000 people living with HIV
In Lagos alone.
in Lagos State alone. That's quite huge.
Absolutely.
That's quite huge. And Again, I think more we should be looking at more sensitization area to sensitize the people on the need to preventive measure to contracting this a deadly disease. And also, the government should also look at the procedure on making this available. Of course, we know recently we heard the decision taken by the United States government over the visual assistance from the on this area. But I think most importantly, we should be looking at the area of sensitization and educating us. We know that you can only manage use living with essentially you cannot cure the diseases completely. Many, particularly the youth, do not know the implication and some of the risks associated with contracting deadly disease. My opinion would be more effort should be put in place to educate Nigerians, particularly the young ones in the secondary schools and the universities, and the area of putting up preventive measure and educating them more on regarding the HIV.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barrister, for joining us all the way from Asaba. And that wraps us today's episode of Trends with LJE. A big thank you to Dr. Ojiara Chris and Mr. Shadrach Oka, as well as our barrister Ann Mitchell, for joining us and sharing their time and expertise on the program today. As always, we ask you to think beyond the headline, because these stories are more than trends. They are our lives. Follow us on social media, showing on your screen, and contribute as needed. Until next time, I am Maimuna Ahoiza Zubair, saying stay aware, stay informed, and stay engaged. Bye for now.